Hello everybody and welcome back. Today we begin chapter 7 of Through the Looking Glass by Lewis Carroll, and it's called The Lion and the Unicorn. Now, I wonder what Alice is going to get up to here. Let's find out. If you're ready, I'll begin. The next moment, soldiers came running through the wood, at first in 2s and 3s, then 10 or 20 together, and at last in such crowds that they seemed to fill the whole forest. Alice got behind a tree for fear of being run over and watched them go by. She thought that in all her life she had never seen soldiers so uncertain on their feet. They were always tripping over something or other, and whenever one fell down, several more always fell over him, so that the ground was soon covered with little heaps of men. Then came the horses. Having 4 feet, these managed rather better than the foot soldiers, but even they stumbled now and then, and it seemed to be a regular rule that whenever a horse stumbled, the rider fell off instantly. The confusion got worse every minute, and Alice was very glad to get out of the wood into an open place, where she found the White King sitting on the ground, busily writing in his memorandum book. "I've sent them all!" the king cried in a tone of delight on seeing Alice. "Did you happen to meet any soldiers, my dear, as you came through the wood?" "Yes, I did," said Alice. "Several thousand, I should think." 4,207. That's the exact number, the king said, referring to his book. "I couldn't send all the horses, you know, because 2 of them are wanted in the game. And I haven't sent the 2 messengers either. They've both gone to the town. Just look along the road and tell me if you could see either of them." "I see nobody on the road," said Alice. "Oh, I wish I had such eyes," the king remarked in a fretful tone, "to be able to see nobody, and at that distance too. Why, it is as much as I can do to see real people by this light." All this was lost on Alice, who was still looking intently along the road, shading her eyes with one hand. "Ah! I see somebody now!" she exclaimed at last. "But he's coming very slowly, and what curious attitudes he goes into." For the messenger kept skipping up and down and wriggling like an eel as he came along with his great hands spread out like fans on either side. "Oh, not at all," said the king. "He's an Anglo-Saxon messenger, and those are Anglo-Saxon attitudes. He only does them when he's happy. His name is Heyer." He pronounced it so as to rhyme with mayor. "I love my love with an H," Alice couldn't help beginning, "because he is happy. I hate him with an H, because he's hideous. I fed him with ham sandwiches, and hey, his name is Heyer, and he lives on the hill," the king said simply, without the least idea he was joining in the game, while Alice was still hesitating for the name of a town beginning with H. "The other messenger's called Hatter. I must have 2, you know, to come and go. 1 to come and 1 to go." "I beg your pardon," said Alice. "It isn't respectable to beg," said the king. "I only meant that I didn't understand," said Alice. "Why 1 has to come and 1 to go." "Didn't I tell you?" the king replied impatiently. "I must have 2 to fetch and carry, 1 to fetch and 1 to carry." At this moment the messenger arrived. He was far too much out of breath to say a word, and could only wave his hands about, and make the most fearful faces at the poor king. "This young lady loves you with an H," the king said, introducing Alice in the hope of turning off the messenger's attitude towards himself. But it was no use. The Anglo-Saxon attitudes only got more extraordinary every moment, while the great eyes rolled wildly from side to side. "You alarm me," said the king. "Oh, I feel faint. Give me a ham sandwich." On which the messenger, to Alice's great amusement, opened a bag that hung round his neck, and handed a sandwich to the king, who devoured it greedily. "Another sandwich," said the king. "There's nothing left but hay now," the messenger said, peeping into the bag. "Hay, then," the king murmured in a faint whisper. Alice was glad to see that it revived him a good deal. "There's nothing like eating hay when you're faint," he remarked to her as he munched away. "I should think throwing cold water over you would be better," Alice suggested, "or some sal volatile." "I didn't say there was nothing better," the king replied. "I said there was nothing like it," which Alice did not venture to deny. "Who did you pass on the road?" the king went on, holding his hand out to the messenger for some more hay. "Nobody," said the messenger. "Quite right," said the king. "This young lady saw him too, so of course nobody walks slower than you." "I do my best," the messenger said sulkily. "I'm sure nobody walks much faster than I do." "He can't do that," said the king, "or else he'd have been here first. However, now you've got your breath, you may tell us what's happened in the town." "I'll whisper it," said the messenger, putting his hands to the mouth of the king in the shape of a trumpet, and stooping so low as to get close to the king's ear. Alice was sorry for this, as she wanted to hear the news too. However, instead of whispering, he simply shouted at the top of his voice, "They're at it again!" "Oh, do you call that a whisper?" cried the poor king, jumping himself up and shaking. "If you do such a thing again, I'll have you buttered." It went through and through my head like an earthquake. It would have to be a very tiny earthquake, thought Alice. "Who are at it again?" she ventured to ask. "Why, the lion and the unicorn, fighting for the crown." "Yes, to be sure," said the king, "and the best of the joke is that it's my crown all the while. Let's run and see them." And they trotted off, Alice repeating to herself as she ran the words of the old song. The lion and the unicorn were fighting for the crown. The lion beat the unicorn all around the town. Some gave them white bread and some gave them brown, and some gave them white bread and drummed them out of town. "Does the one that wins get the crown?" she asked as well as she could, for the run was putting her quite out of breath. "Oh, dear me, no," said the king. "What an idea!" "Would you be good enough," Alice panted out after running a little further, "to stop a minute, just to get one's breath again?" "I'm good enough," said the king, "only I'm not strong enough. You see, a minute goes by so fearfully quick, you might as well try to stop a Bandersnatch." Alice had no more breath for talking, so they trotted on in silence until they came in sight of a great crowd, in the middle of which the lion and the unicorn were fighting. They were in such a cloud of dust that at first Alice could not make out which was which, but she soon managed to distinguish the unicorn by his horn. They placed themselves close to where Hatter, the other messenger, was standing watching the fight, with a cup of tea in one hand and a piece of bread and butter in the other. "He's only just out of prison, and he hadn't finished his tea when he was sent in," Haya whispered to Alice. "And they only give them oyster shells in there, you know, so you see he's very hungry and thirsty. How are you, dear child?" he went on, putting his arm affectionately round Hatter's neck. Hatter looked round and nodded, and went on with his bread and butter. "Were you happy in prison, dear child?" said Heyer. Hatter looked round once more, and this time a tear or two trickled down his cheek, but not a word he would say. "Speak, can't you?" Heyer cried impatiently. But Hatter only munched away and drank some more tea. "Speak, won't you?" cried the king. "How are they getting on with the fight?" Hatter made a desperate effort and swallowed a large piece of bread and butter. "They're getting on very well," he said in a choking voice. "Each of them has been down about 87 times. Then I suppose they'll soon bring the white bread and the brown?" Alice ventured to ask. "It's waiting for 'em now," said Hatter. "This is a bit of it I'm eating." There was a pause in the fight just then, and the lion and the unicorn sat down, panting, while the king called out, "10 minutes allowed for refreshments." Heyer and Hatter set to work at once, carrying rough trays of white and brown bread. Alice took a piece to taste, but it was very dry. "I don't think they'll fight any more today," the king said to Hatter. "Go and order the drums to begin." And Hatter went bounding away like a grasshopper. Oh, well, 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 ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Quite an interesting moment to stop there, but don't worry. We will continue this tale tomorrow. Who will win the battle, the lion or the unicorn, do you think? Stick your comments down below and let's see. But maybe as you were listening, did you pick up two very familiar characters from Alice in Wonderland? If you did, let me know as well down below. Now let's reset and get ready for tomorrow's continuing chapter. My name's been Sascha Cooper, and this has been Alice Through the Looking Glass by Lewis Carroll. Take care, everybody, and stay safe. Bye-bye.